Abadi Ajidao, the currencies analyst from Alpari, is joining me now, and we're looking at more market analysis tools. Last week, we looked at the Fibonacci theory. Well, this week, we're looking at pivot points. This is a market analysis tool that Alpari says the traders at the market can employ to help them while they trade. Well, thank you, Badi, for being here.
Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, we did last week. We looked at the Fibonacci, and of course, we looked at it in two parts. But before we go into that, as usual, let's look at the current trends at the market this morning. How all the news that we received this morning has been affecting currencies. It's a big day for Greece.
Yeah.
I was quite elated myself when I heard that the final decision will be taken today. So, what do you think is going to go? Do you think Greece will get that money that it needs today?
Talking about final.
But that's what they said. They said the final decision. That's what policymakers in Europe said.
They don't shift the final to another day again. It's actually a big one for them, and it's with all the indications around. It's likely that Greece gets the money
in full, because we know we did get reports that
there's a debate that whether they're going to give them in full, or Joe Germany is insisting that they give them in full. Yeah, but the fear of the Euro, the representative of the Eurozone, is that if another government comes in and they don't live up to the conditions of the bailout package, so they want to give them a part of it first, and when the new government comes in, they sign and they get the other tranche. But Germany is insisting that they get the full package, which they will likely get. For the Prime Minister, he's been working tirelessly.
We know they have been working day and night.
But
it will still seem that there's still a bit of distrust on the part of the European, especially the finance ministers.
The finance minister, they are afraid. They are afraid that the government at some point is going to bend towards what is happening in the country, because presently there's social unrest, political unrest amongst the people because of the austerity measures.
But in fairness to the finance ministers saying that or suggesting that this particular bailout package be split into two. In the last 2 years, Greece has fallen behind on budget targets. Yes. At the same time, I would sympathize also with Greece because, of course, like you said, all the riots, all the demonstrations we've seen on the streets, and of course, the austerity measures being taken has been stifling growth.
It's
job cuts across the board. So, I guess Greece continues to find itself between a rock and a hard place.
Papandreou is, I think, is done with the deal. It's going to go no matter what happens, that Greece should get this bailout package. And it's from what the Australian minister said they don't see a majority going against the signing of the deal. So most likely we should get that, and that should be a little bit of a boost for the Eurozone.
Well, that will definitely, of course, rise the market. So now how has, I imagine, or I want to believe that the Euro has been rallying on the back of that. Investors should be taking positioning themselves.
It's been going up. In the early hours of today, we saw the Euro jump. There was a big gap to the upside this morning, and it has been trending a little bit to the upside. It's around 1.3200, and we still see a potential for it to continue moving up to the upside because of people's sentiments towards the news that's going to likely favor them, and people will begin to go in for the euro and begin to sell other currencies paired against the euro.
Now, at the currencies market, are there more bets for Greece getting that package? Because I imagine that so many investors will put themselves in.
There are more bets. We are waiting on the sideline to see if it's a good news. Like I said, we take the part. But if it's a bad news, it's also an opportunity for us.
Is Alpari also positioning itself?
As traders, we'll be positioning ourselves to take advantage of it.
So tell me, do you think, or does Alpari think, are you placing your own bets, believing that Greece will get that package today?
I'm open. If it gets the package, good. If it does not get the package, it's another trend for me.
But you put yourself in a safe distance where you can quickly pull out in
take position either to the upside or to the downside.
Okay.
So, but obviously protecting myself against risk.
And of course, those trading on the Alpari platform.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, let's go into what we're doing today. We're looking at pivot points. It's a currency market analysis tool. Now, tell us what's the pivot point?
Now, pivot point was developed by floor traders. Who trade most especially the stocks, equity, bonds, and this tool has been adopted by the currency market because we have the same way of analyzing the market. We follow the same types of chart patterns, like the candlesticks, which we discussed.
The Fibonacci that we looked at also.
Fibonacci, which we discussed last week. Now, the idea of the pivot point is to spot where the markets are going to witness support and resistance. And I like to call support and resistance pressure areas in the market. Because last week I said if the market is trending up, it does not go up in a swift direction. It goes up in a wave-like direction. So if the price is going to go up, it's going to get towards a level, and from that level, several things happen, which we normally call profit taking and price witnessing what we call reversals in the market or retracement. So these levels are called support and resistance. So it's the pivot point helps traders to actually identify these points on their trading platform, that is on their chart. So it makes it a very useful tool in when you are trading. So without pivot points, it's like you're walking in the dark, basically.
Okay, so comparing this pivot point to the Fibonacci theory, because I know Fibonacci is quite similar. With Fibonacci, you can also identify,
resistance. Yeah, comparing it, they have the same idea because Fibonacci tool also helps us to identify support and resistance in the market. But there's a little subjectivity to Fibonacci because for different traders, they'll be looking at where to plot their Fibonacci form. Fibonacci is a tool, it's a retracement tool. So a trader can consider plotting his Fibonacci from the low of last year or the high of 10 years ago, while another trader can try to plot his Fibonacci with the current happenings in the market. So Fibonacci is subjective, but for pivot point, we have strict guides on how to actually calculate the pivot point and putting it on your chart.
Are you saying it's easier to use, or
pivot point is more objective? That is, you can have like 100 traders here giving you the same pivot lines. That is, they can come up and say, okay, these are the pivot points that we are going to be using today, and they have a lot of similarities because they are using the same calculations and the same mathematics. But for Fibonacci, there's difference because one trader can try to plot it his own way, another trader can try to take different points on the chart. Now, the main idea of this pivot point is that I like to use the example of bus stops.
Okay.
You understand? There's hardly anywhere you go in this world that you don't have bus stops because you have to use bus stops to identify where you are going to. If you are giving me your address, you have to give me the nearest bus stop to it so that I can identify your point. So it's the same way the pivot line works. So if a trader is taking a position, he wants to know, okay, for instance, if the market is going up, wants to know to what point is he going to get to. For the Fibonacci retracement tool, he wants to understand, okay, if it gets to this point, to what extent is he going to pull back to? So they all have the same idea, but they help us to identify key areas in the market. It's those key areas that traders actually watch out for to take profit or to re-enter into the market again.
So for taking profit, pulling back, watching, what are the determinants? Is it price-sensitive information, news coming into the market, like what's going on in the debt crisis now? What informs traders in their decision to pull back or make all those moves as it were?
Now, pivot point, Fibonacci tools, they are historical tools. That is, they take statistics of what has happened in the past to identify what is going to happen in the future. Now, traders use the historical places in the past where they've witnessed a form of pressure or a form of resistance or support. So from that point, it's easy to project where prices are likely going to get to in the future. For instance, in the market now, what technical analysts understand is this. For instance, what is happening in euro, whether it's a good news for euro or it's a bad news for euro, we expect that the market is either going to go up or come down. So technical tools have taken into consideration all of this. And with all this into consideration, we have all our pivot lines or Fibonacci tools all plotted out on your screen. So it's like a roadmap. So you know where to stop, you know where to enter, irrespective of what is happening in the market.
I've often heard traders, not just the currencies in equities, they talk about using historical evidence, using that to plot what will happen in the future and all of that. But I keep saying that with all the kind of volatility that we see, I mean, we could just wake up one morning and some kind of disaster has happened, and just throws everything. So would it? Because I'm thinking that shouldn't this markets or the currencies, as it were, be treated on a case-by-case basis? Because we have had some unprecedented events.
No. I have to disagree on that because there is nothing new under the sun.
Okay.
What is happening to Greece today move the market in certain ways.
Yeah, but investors' behavior back then could be different from investors' behavior now.
Investors' behavior is the news going to be favorable or not? So is either I'm putting my money on the table or I'm pulling it out. That is the only way they can behave. 10 years from now, if another economy is going to have issues, it's two things. Should I put my money on the table or I should put it out? So we have a pattern of behaving.
No matter
what. That is why we usually say that history is going to repeat itself. For instance, if you are going to forecast economic growth, you are going to take statistics of what has happened in the past to say whether inflation is rising or inflation is falling. Without historical data, there is no way we can project and plan for the future.
What kind of pivot points do we have in terms of implementation? How can traders apply them, as it were?
Okay, pivot points basically are, we call them S&R lines, that support and resistance. And if you have on your chart, you have what we call the R1, R2, R3.
As resistance
These
points.
are resistant points.
That is
0.1, 0.2, 0.3. And that's what we have on the screen now. We have the S1, the S2 and S3. That's the support 1, the support 2, and the support 3. Now, these are levels in the market where traders can decide to go in to take position or to take profit or to spot retracement in the market. Now, on the next one, you see a live example of how these charts are actually implemented. Now, this is a chart of Euro USD, and from this chart, we see price moving to the upside. Now, we have those lines identified on the chart. Right now, the Euro USD is trending up, but if you look way back into the past, you will see that Euro USD has been dropping, and these are key levels. From that point, Euro USD was dropping from the R2 line. R2 means resistance 2, and it dropped straight towards the R1 line, down towards the pivot line, down towards the S1 line. Now, it's around the S1 line that you witnessed a form of support. At this support, you now have traders trying to get back into the market to take a buy position because the general trend of the market has been bullish, and they drove the price back to the pivot, that's the PP, back to R1. Now, presently, the market is around the R1, that's the resistance line. So, around the resistance line, what the traders are trying to project is this: am I expecting a further movement to the upside or to the downside? If I'm expecting a further movement to the upside, then where should I project for profit taking? Now, I'll state at this point that the intraday traders mostly use the pivot point because they help them to identify where they take positions during the day. So if I'm taking a buy position now, where do I expect to exit out of the market? We are expecting to exit out of the market around the R2 line, which is the line up which you have the cruiser moving around. But in case my projection is that the price should come down, then I'll be expecting to take my profit out of the market around the pivot line, which is the PP line, which is right under the R1 line. So actually, this helps the trader to plan his trade. So when you're entering into the market, first you are looking at your entry point, and secondly you are looking at your exit point. The entry point is at what point do I want to enter into the market, and the exit point is in 2. At what point do I want to exit the market profitably or at a loss? So pivot points help us to identify all these borders in the market so that we can effectively integrate it into our trading to pick our profit and to take out our losses from the market.
Okay, interesting. Now, Badi, at every point in time when a trader is trading at the market, or perhaps a trader wakes up in the morning and he wants to start his trading for the day, and he sees a certain trend going on in the market, perhaps he hasn't heard any news, what would inform his decision? Is it that he says, especially if he hasn't heard any news, or perhaps he hasn't clicked on the other news wires to check and see, especially what's going on in Europe or economic data from the US or China? What informs his decision? Is it that he just follows the trend? He says what other decisions other traders are taking, or he just follows the trend, maybe going into resistance or support level? Yeah. So what informs his, even trader, like a group of traders from different parts of the world or country?
First and foremost, every trader has a unique pattern of analyzing the market, and we say that the market can be analyzed from the fundamental point of view and from the technical point of view. The fundamental point of view says that you have to understand the news that is going on. For instance, the event that's happening in Greece now and some other parts of the world, and most especially the news that affects the currency that you are trading. But on the other side, the technical analysis says, whatever is going to happen in the market, news or no news, traders are going to behave in predictive manner. So, but for a trader getting to a system to take position, he has to have his support and resistance lines on his chart.
No matter what's going on in the market.
No matter what's going on in the market. Whether whether Greece is going to release the news, whether America is going to come up with its unemployment figure,
okay,
he should have its pivot lines or Fibonacci or support and resistance tools plotted on the screen. And so after this tool, after having this tool on your chart, then you can now move further to begin to analyze the news. If you are trading from the fundamental point of view, or begin to analyze using your technical indicators. But first and foremost, you have to plot those levels on your chart, because it is with those levels that you can know. For instance, if we have a positive news coming out from Greece, and most likely it's going to push the price to the upside, you don't expect that the price is going to go up throughout maybe the day or throughout the end of the year, or depending on what kind of traders you are. I told you last week that we have the swing traders, we have the intraday traders. Intraday traders take position within the day. Swing traders take position for a couple of days to a week, and the long-term traders are actually in the market for a couple of months to a year. So depending on what kind of trader you are, you don't expect that the market is just going to continue going up or down for a major part of the day. The market goes within its bus stop. Let me use that word again.
Okay.
So if it leaves this terminal, it's going to the next terminal. If it leaves the next terminal, it's going to another terminal. So the support and resistance lines helps you to spot those terminals. Now, people who don't usually use the pivot lines, the problem they find themselves in is that, for instance, you've taken a position and you're supposed to exit at a particular pivot line or a key level, but because you don't know that that pivot line or that key level exists at that point, you don't take your profit out, and the next thing, your profit turns into losses. Or because there's a pivot line which you are not aware of, and you're not supposed to take a position from that level, but because you are not aware of the pivot lines around that level, you now take your position, and market reverses against you.
Okay.
And if you have the pivot lines there, you would have been saved from that mistake.
Okay, interesting. Hopefully, I hope traders are listening, because this is very key data that they can actually use. Now, I understand there's some kind of calculation for the pivot. Are we going to have that calculation, or are we going to see it in the next, or perhaps we can wait for the next session with Alpari? That will be on Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm being told that we actually do have to wrap up now, so perhaps we would talk about that next time Alpari comes here. That will be Wednesday. So wrapping up, projections for today's Monday. We have an eventful week ahead of us, but particularly for the euro, where do you see in terms of strength this week, depending on where the pendulum swings, what kind of strength should we expect the euro to gain this week?
Today is a major day, like you said earlier. Currency traders basically are on the sidelines. Now, I may not be able to talk for the stock guys, but for the currency guys, all we are waiting for is this. Is euro getting a bailout package
or not?
If it's getting a bailout package, we know the market is going up. So every currency trader, or most of the currency traders, will be taking a buy position from the market. At this point, it might be a little bit difficult to begin to put exact or specifics, because we don't know how the news is going to swing. But if it's going to be a bad news, I can say to all my traders to sell.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hopefully it will be a good day for Greece after all. Well, thank you so much, Bade, for being here. We'll see you again.